A lot of times when we talk about feeding with premature infants, parents have expectations of what they think is going to happen or how they're going to feed, and then what actually feeding looks like, and how that's a really hard thing for a mom, especially, is you had this plan about feeding, and we all talk about the plans beforehand. Can you maybe speak to that on what your thoughts were about feeding, and then kind of the realities of being in the NICU for NICU parents?
For me, definitely, like I said, it was something I had been looking forward to because that was like the sign of like, hey, this is what you need, last step to, for them to be able to come home. Um, and one thing I learned is to give yourself grace and to have patience. There's going to be a lot of setbacks, and that's something that can be frustrating, especially for babies who are born so early. You've been there for so long, you kind of just want to get out of there already. You want to bring your baby home, and feeding takes time. It takes the baby a lot of time to be able to learn how to suck, breathe, swallow. And so that technique is going to take them time, and you don't want to rush it. That's something I would tell parents, don't rush it. Rushing it sometimes will put more setbacks than you wanted to. And so just kind of working with your baby, giving yourself grace and giving your baby grace was something
Mm.
that was very important. But it was definitely hard. I mean, there was times where I'm like, okay, I'm ready. It's been so many months that I've been here. I want to bring my babies home. And having to have the mental strength to be there, to make sound decisions. It's very hard. You've been beat up for so long from that journey. And so feeding for me was definitely that last step where I just wanted to get through it. But I quickly learned it was best for me to, take it one step at a time, and just give my babies the time they needed. I originally wanted to breastfeed. Once we saw some of the obstacles they were having medically, I became more focused on the bottle feeding. I was pumping. I was supplying about 100 ounces per day for my babies, and it was very important for me that they received my milk. We started with bottle feeding, and I quickly realized that he was sometimes like choked. So that's when I was recommended Dr. Brown's, and as soon as we tried it, I could see the difference with Royce. And so it was very interesting to sometimes try the regular bottle, just because that's what was available. And again, you will see Royce kind of like start choking or having a hard time breathing or having a DSAT. And then once we 100% changed the bottle, I could see like it was easier for him. And so that became the number one bottle that I was like, okay, now I see with my babies being premature, this is how we're going to move forward.
I was just curious, did you have to supply the Dr. Brown's bottles, or did the hospital actually have access and were they able to provide those
So
for you?
the hospital actually had several bottles that we could try, and so I had tried what I had used for my firstborn. But once we were seeing struggles with him choking sometimes, then they recommend Dr. Brown, and they definitely supply that for us, which I was very grateful for.
And what's funny is back when Dr. Brown's bottles first entered the NICU, parents would bring them in, and
Right.
parents and nurses saw these differences. That internal venting system really it eliminates all the negative pressure in a bottle, so the babies can actually feed without the resistance in the bottle, so it's less work for them. And the consistent nipple flow rates, which is very significant for a premature infant, because they probably needed a very slow flow nipple, and the standard hospital bottle systems, the flow rates vary so much even with each nipple of the same kind. So
Right.
that's one of the biggest reasons that NICUs do use Dr. Brown's bottles, is that no negative pressure and then the consistent nipple flow rates. So that's another reason why they did so well on them.
Royce was that one that once that bottle hit his mouth, he just wanted to chug the whole thing down. The feeding therapist was like, we need to like slow him down. We need to pace him because he gets so excited by the milk. And other bottles did not have like the ultra preemie nipple, so that's one of the other reasons why we went with Dr. Brown, where hey, he can drink the milk and have a slower flow. That will help him have a more successful feed.
So when you're talking about four babies, four Dr. Brown's bottles, sometimes we hear about the cleaning.
It's still worth it. As someone who at one point was like, okay, my babies are at the NICU, they no longer need this bottle. I tried making the change, and I would see my baby spit up, I would see Maya choking. And so I would take Dr. Brown's any day with my eyes closed. So I will wash all those parts. I'll make my husband wash all the parts. But yes, definitely was worth it for us. It was the safest way, especially because my babies did have a lot of swallow studies and choking challenges in the NICU.
Mm,
Even
mm.
afterwards, we've had to do swallow studies still for Amaya and Denzel. And so with that, I felt like there was no hesitation on my part to do what was best and safest for them.